So we are in the middle of the college basketball offseason. It's been a few months since our original way too early top 25 rankings. So in today's video, we are going to be breaking down our updated top 25 college basketball preseason rankings and all of the movement that there was. But before we begin, if you enjoy the content, please consider dropping a like on the video and subscribing to the channel as it helps us grow and is greatly appreciated. And now, let's jump into it. And to start us off, let's dive into some of the honorable mentions that are just outside of our top 25, starting with Oregon. The Ducks just fell out of our top 25 and are looking to improve after a roller coaster of a season last year. They are returning key scorers Nate Biddle and Jackson Shelstad, but replacing TJ Bamba's production will be critical for the Ducks next season, and they're banking on transfers TK Simpkins, who led Elon in scoring, and Ohio State's Sean Stewart to step up and do just that. Baylor is another honorable mention, as they are undergoing a full roster rebuild under Scott Drew with no returning players from last season's squad. Baylor actually just represented the United States at the 2025 World University Games in Germany and ended up earning a silver medal after losing to Brazil in the championship game, but their roster blends young talent like 5-star wing Tunde Yesufu with experienced transfers such as Michael Rataj and Obi Agbim, who was the star for Baylor and Team USA this summer. Wisconsin is also outside of our preseason top 25 rankings, but surprised many with 27 wins last year and returns guard John Blackwell III, who withdrew from the NBA draft and opted to stay with the Badgers, alongside junior big man Nolan Winter, and a stacked transfer class, including point guard transfer Nick Boyd. And it seems like the Badgers are leaning into a faster pace and more three-point shooting next season under Greg Gard. And finally, we have the Iowa Hawkeyes, who welcome in new head coach Ben McCollum this season, and he is bringing star point guard Bennett Sturts from Drake alongside a few others. McCollum also added in sharpshooters Brendan Howson and Alvaro Falgueres, and is hoping his winning formula from the D2 ranks and Drake translates well to the Big Ten next year. But let's jump into our rankings, and to start us off, we have North Carolina, who drops to number 25 in our top 25 rankings, with a roster reshaped by Hubert Davis through the transfer portal and a strong freshman class. After losing key scorers like Elliot Cadeau and Ian Jackson, the Tar Heels added impact transfers Kean Evans from Colorado State, Jonathan Powell from West Virginia, and Arizona's skilled 7-foot center Henry Vasar, who is poised for a breakout season in my opinion. And freshman Caleb Wilson and veteran Seth Trimble form a solid core, while Montenegrin wing Luke Bogovic brings much needed shooting and experience. And despite a promising mix, the team faces challenges replacing 8 of its top 9 scorers, making early chemistry and consistency some key factors for their success, and their non-conference schedule will test how quickly this revamped roster gels. And while some bracketology projections have North Carolina as a potential 5 seed, the team may be a work in progress early on, and ultimately the combination of seasoned transfers and talented newcomers positions them to compete in a tough ACC and earn a spot in March Madness this season. Tennessee jumps into the top 25 at number 24 as Rick Barnes begins a roster overhaul, blending experienced transfers with top-tier freshmen. The Vols lost multiple key contributors, but landed 2 major impact players in Maryland transfer Jacoby Gillespie, who is one of the best point guards in college basketball last season, and 5-star recruit Nate Ament, who is a projected top 5 pick in the 2026 NBA draft and has elite size and shooting ability. Gillespie steps in to replace Zakai Ziegler and brings strong ball screen playmaking to the backcourt, and they also got Amari Abram from Louisiana Tech, who will add valuable shooting depth. In the front court, Felix Okpara returns alongside Vanderbilt transfer Jalen Carey and reserves Cade Phillips and JP Estrella, who should provide solid depth there. And despite their significant departures, Tennessee sustained success under Rick Barnes, including 4 straight top 10 turning pieces. The Vols have the talent to compete at a high level and maintain their place among the nation's best. NC State comes in at number 23 under new coach Will Wade and is fueled by the late addition of Texas Tech transfer Darion Williams, who is one of the best players in the portal this offseason. Williams gives the Wolfpack a true offensive fulcrum capable of creating his own shot shot and setting up teammates, having been a first-team All-Big 12 selection and a dominant force in the 2025 NCAA tournament with Texas Tech. Wade also bolstered the roster with Power Conference experience by adding Michigan State's Trey Holloman, Houston's Terrence Arsenault, Florida State's Jerry Dang, and North Carolina's Vin Allen Lubin, who will all be key pieces and have high major backgrounds. Lumen and international newcomer Paul Mbaya will battle for minutes down low, adding depth to the front court for the Wolfpack, and with size, shooting, and a fresh offensive weapon in Williams, NC State is positioned to make a deep tournament run and could be a contender for the Elite Eight or beyond in Wade's first season. Creighton is ranked at number 22 as Greg McDermott faces the challenge of replacing key veterans Ryan Kalkbrenner and Stephen Ashworth, along with starter Jemiah Neal, and despite losing these stalwarts, Creighton's efficient offensive system and available playing time have attracted a strong transfer class. Iowa transfers Owen Freeman and Josh Dix are expected to lead the way, with Freeman stepping into big shoes as a reliable two-way presence after averaging 16.5 points and nearly 2 blocks last season. And guards Nick Graves and Blake Harper are both former scoring leaders at their previous schools and could be impactful X factors for the Blue Jays. But look for Jackson McAndrew, who is a promising 6'10" shooter, to make a major leap this season, and Creighton remains a solid Big East contender due to its blend of proven transfers and young talent ready to emerge on their roster. We have Michigan State listed at number 21 as Tom Izzo's squad looks to build on last year's Big Ten title despite losing key scorers, including top NBA-bound Jace Richardson. The Spartans' strength lies in its continuity, though, with returning key players like Jeremy Fears Jr., Cohen Carr, and Jackson Kohler, who will provide experience and leadership for the team. Izzo's trust in his returning talent is clear, especially given his reservations about the transfer portal, but to address their perimeter shooting concerns, Michigan State added sharpshooters Caleb Glenn from FAU and Trey Fort from Samford in the portal, which should also help stretch the floor for them. And with the top 3 scorers gone, Jeremy Fears Jr. will need to step up as the primary playmaker, while Carson Cooper is expected to be a force inside alongside Jackson Kohler. And the deep rotation and the mix of veterans and newcomers will give Michigan State a solid foundation, but improving their offensive consistency and outside shooting will be crucial for the Spartans next season. Illinois is listed in the rankings at number 20 thanks to Brad Underwood's bold international recruiting strategy, which brings a unique blend of global talent to Champaign. The roster features key returners like Kylan Boswell, Tomislav Ivisic, Ben Humerich, and Ty Rogers, providing a solid foundation for the Fighting Illini. However, the real excitement centers around new additions like Andrea Stojakovic, a former McDonald's All-American and standout scorer who averaged 18 points at California last season. Underwood also added Balkan standouts Mahalo Petrovic, one of the top players in Europe's ABA league, and Zvonimir Ivisic, who teams up with his brother Tomislav to form a formidable frontcourt duo. This international core, paired with Boswell's leadership and Stojakovic's scoring ability, gives Illinois the talent to compete for a Big Ten title and make a deep NCAA tournament run this season, and the key will be how quickly this diverse group gels on the court together. Kansas checks in at number 19 after a key offseason boost, with Flory Badunga deciding to return, forming a promising inside-outside duo with freshman phenom Darren Peterson, who is the projected number 1 pick in the 2026 draft. Peterson's scoring and playmaking ability will be critical for a Kansas offense that lacks proven offensive stars, and his 61-point game against AJ Dubbanza highlights his high ceiling. Bill Self also bolstered the roster with wing additions Trey White from Illinois, Melvin Council Jr. from St. Bonaventure, and Jaden Dawson from Loyola Chicago, who will provide depth and shooting around Peterson and Badunga. However, the Jayhawks did miss out on top targets like Darian Williams and Dame Sarr, leaving some questions about their offensive firepower beyond their young stars. And while Kansas has a solid foundation with Peterson and Badunga, in my opinion, the team still needed another impact player to truly contend at the highest level, but their ranking reflects the balance of elite talent and some of the unanswered questions that we have heading into next season. The Auburn Tigers come in at number 18 after reaching the Final Four last season, but face a major roster overhaul. The biggest boost is the return of Tahad Pettiford, though, who is an electrifying player who could open the season as a preseason All-American and step into a starring role immediately. And despite losing Chad Baker-Mazara to the portal, Bruce Pearl quickly rebuilt the roster with impactful transfers like Keyshawn Hall from UCF, who averaged nearly 19 points and 7 rebounds last year, and is expected to be Auburn's second scoring options. They also included some other additions like Texas Tech's Kevin Overton, Division II standout Elijah Freeman, and big men Keyshawn Murphy and Serbian freshman Filip Jovic bolstering the front court. And Pearl's ability to blend these newcomers with Pettiford's dynamic play gives Auburn plenty of reasons for optimism as they aim to remain a top contender in the SEC and try to make another deep tournament run. Gonzaga is ranked number 17 despite a major roster turnover after losing key starters Ryan Nembhard, Nolan Hickman, Khalif Battle, and Bing Gregg. However, the Bulldogs remain a force with frontcourt stars like Graham Ike and Braden Huff returning to anchor the paint. The biggest boost comes from Grand Canyon transfer Tyon Grant Foster, who is a prolific scorer who averaged 20 points 2 seasons ago and could be the key offensive playmaker for Gonzaga. Backcourt depth remains a question though, with Braden Smith and Jalen Worley coming off red shirts and Still Venters returning from injury after 2 seasons of being out. Arizona State transfer Adam Miller adds experience, though he'll have to prove his consistency after playing for multiple schools. But Coach Mark Few's teams rarely fall out of the national top 25, and with this talented front court and an improving perimeter, Gonzaga looks poised to maintain its elite status and compete for yet another deep tournament run in their final season in the West Coast Conference. Coming in at number 16, we have the Alabama Crimson Tide after a strong offseason capped by LeBaron Philon's surprise decision to withdraw from the NBA draft and return to Tuscaloosa for his sophomore year. Philon, who is a dynamic guard, gives Nate Oates the playmaking and scoring boost the Crimson Tide desperately need in the backcourt, alongside returning sharpshooter Aiden Holloway and a healthy Latrell Reitzel Jr. Former 5-star recruit Jalil Bethea also chose to transfer to Alabama from Miami and could be a game changer if he recaptures his elite shooting form under Oates' system. The frontcourt will lean on portal additions like Bucknell's Patriot League Player of the Year Noah Williamson and Florida State transfer Taylor Bull Bowen, who bring size and skill inside. Aiden Sherrill is also expected to make a leap forward to help anchor the interior, and while losing Mark Sears' leadership and scoring definitely creates some pressure for the team, Alabama's mix of experienced guard and talented newcomers keeps them among the SEC favorites in my opinion, with a strong chance to make another deep NCAA tournament run. UCLA jumps up to number 15 in our rankings thanks to a standout offseason haul, which is highlighted by the Mountain West Player of the Year Donovan Dent, who chose to transfer from New Mexico to UCLA. Dent is a dynamic playmaker and scorer who led the Mountain West with 20.5 points per game last season and ranks among the nation's top guards in both scoring and assists. His arrival should dramatically boost UCLA's offensive firepower and efficiency, and the Bruins are also returning 3 starters, including frontcourt duo Eric Daly Jr. and Tyler Bilodeau, who pose matchup problems with their versatility and skill. Additions like Kansas City's Jamar Browns and Michigan State's former 5-star Xavier Booker add depth and shooting to the roster for the Bruins as well. And under coach Mick Cronin, UCLA continues to emphasize tough defense and now has a more balanced and dangerous lineup. And with Dent leading the offense and a solid supporting cast around him, the Bruins are positioned as one of the Big Ten's best teams and a rising national contender next season. Iowa State also moved up in the rankings and checks in at number 14 and is anchored by a strong defensive foundation that's been a hallmark under coach TJ Altelberger, ranking top 15 nationally in adjusted defensive efficiency the past 4 seasons. And despite losing key offensive contributors Keyshawn Gilbert and Curtis Jones, the Cyclones return a solid core with starters like Tamin Lipsey, Milan Monkilovic, and Joshua Jefferson that will lead the way. Virginia transfer Blake Buchanan and Utah Valley's Dominic Nelson, who was the WAC Player of the Year last season, will help bolster the front court and add in much needed scoring depth. And while Mason Williams' season is in jeopardy due to hip surgery, Iowa State's roster depth and recruiting class provide plenty of support for the team, and Nelson's ability to get to the foul line will help fill offensive gaps left by those departures. And with this balanced mix of defense, returning talent, and these impactful newcomers, the Cyclones are well positioned to make another strong NCAA tournament run and will remain a tough out in March Madness. Arizona ranks number 13 as Tommy Lloyd prepares to start two highly touted freshmen in Koa Pete and Braden Burries, who will both bring an instant impact for the Wildcats. Pete is a proven winner with multiple state titles and USA Basketball gold medals and will anchor the frontcourt with his versatile face-up game and scoring ability. And Burries is an aggressive, multi-dimensional scorer who will boost the Wildcats' offense right away. And returning point guard Jaden Bradley will also help provide steady leadership, while big men Toby Awaka and Motias Krivas will help bolster the frontcourt depth. And don't forget about last year's impact transfer for Arizona, Anthony Del Orso, who is also expected to see significant minutes next season. Now, the Wildcats roster did take a hit with Carter Bryant deciding to stay in the NBA draft, which will leave a wing spot open and could prompt someone needing to step in there. But still, with the top tier recruits and solid returners that Arizona has, they have the talent to compete at a high level in the Big 12 and should make a strong postseason push. Arkansas checks in at number 12 after a strong finish to last season that saw them reach the Sweet 16 before an overtime loss to Texas Tech. And John Calipari's squad returns 4 of its top 6 postseason minute getters, including key wing Carter Knox, who withdrew from the NBA draft. The Razorbacks also landed top 10 recruits Darius Acuff and Malik Thomas, who will add much needed scoring and playmaking to their backcourt. Acuff is a dynamic point guard and is expected to take over primary ball handling duties right away and could be a game changer on offense for Arkansas. And the front court was also bolstered by transfers Nick Pringle from South Carolina and Malik Ewan from Florida State, which will help provide Calipari with more depth and versatility on the inside. And while the loss of Adu Thiero to the NBA stings, Arkansas's continuity combined with talented newcomers gives them a strong chance to build on last year's momentum. And with the mix of experience, fresh talent, and Calipari's coaching pedigree, the Razorbacks are poised to compete for an SEC title and to make another deep NCAA tournament run, and could have the most talent of any roster in the country. Texas Tech moves up to number 11 in the rankings thanks to a huge offseason boost with the return of Big 12 Player of the Year JT Toppin, who was dominant down the stretch last season and is poised for another big campaign next year. Coach Grant McCaslin also gets a major lift with the return of rising point guard Christian Anderson, and the Red Raiders address the loss of Darian Williams by adding versatile wing Lawan Watts from Washington State, who averaged nearly 14 points, 7 rebounds, and 4.5 assists while shooting 42% from 3. And sharpshooting guards Donovan Atwell and Tyree Bryan provide floor spacing, combining for over 160 made threes at better than 40%. Defensively, VCU transfer Luke Bungboy anchors the paint with elite rim protection. And while Texas Tech is still figuring out their starting personnel and who will be the best guard to complement Anderson, this well-rounded, experienced squad has the talent and depth to make a serious run in the Big 12 and will make a deep NCAA tournament push as well. And Michigan moved into the top 10 as they come in at the number 10 spot in the rankings after securing a major offseason win when potential first-round draft pick Yaxel Lindeborg withdrew from the NBA draft to join the Wolverines for next season. And Lindeborg is a dominant forward from UAB who averaged 17.5 points, 11.5 rebounds, and 4 assists last season and could be the player of the year next season. And he will be the centerpiece of Dusty May's offense. Michigan also added in some key transfers, such as Elliot Cadeau from North Carolina and Merez Johnson Jr. from Illinois, who are both expected to start next season. And with Cadeau's elite passing skills setting up the offense from the point guard spot, this could be a lethal combination. And the UCLA transfer Ade Mara, who is 7'3", will help bolster the front court depth and rim protection from the Wolverines. And returning wings Roddy Gale Jr., Namari Burnett, and 5-star freshman Trey McKinney will help provide scoring and athleticism on the perimeter as well. And despite losing its top 3 players from last season's, it seems that Michigan's blend of high upside transfers like Lindeborg and talented returners under Dusty May will have the Wolverines poised for a major leap forward and could make an even deeper run this upcoming year. BYU falls to number 9 in our rankings, but still enters the season with massive expectations thanks to the arrival of top recruit AJ Dybantsa, who is one of the most hyped prospects in years. And head coach Kevin Young has built this Cougars roster to maximize Dybantsa's one college season, surrounding him with scoring, shooting, and experience. And returning wing Richie Saunders is viewed by Big 12 coaches as one of the league's most underrated players, and forward Keba Keita, who is dominant down low. The Cougars also landed elite point guard Robert Wright III from Baylor, giving them a dynamic trio alongside Dybantsa and Saunders. But it seems like Southern Illinois transfer Kennard Davis could be the key for this team, who will help add perimeter shooting and all-around scoring for BYU. And coming off of a Sweet 16 run, which was just their second since 1981, BYU's offense should be among the nation's most explosive, but the key question will be whether the Cougars can tighten up defensively. But if they do, this group definitely has the talent to challenge for the top of the Big 12 and could make a serious push at a Final Four. St. John slides back to number 8 in our rankings after Rick Pitino followed up a Big East regular season and tournament title with one of the nation's best transfer classes. And despite losing key pieces like Kadari Richmond, RJ Lewis Jr., and Aaron Scott, the Red Storm return standout forward Zuby Ejiofor and add a wave of high-impact transfers. The headliner, of course, is Bryce Hopkins, who is a former first-team All-Big East forward at Providence, but health will be crucial for him after missing most of last season with knee injuries. Pitino also addressed last year's shooting woes with elite scoring wings such as Ian Jackson from North Carolina, Josan Sainon from Arizona State, and Oziah Sellers from Stanford. Athletic forward Dylan Mitchell from Cincinnati also helps bring some front court depth, while Idaho State transfer Dylan Darling offers insurance at the point guard position if the Ian Jackson experience doesn't go as we expect. But with a deeper and more talented roster than last season and Pitino's proven track record as a coach, St. John's has the firepower to repeat as Big East champions, and the main question will be, can they get steady guard play that can help them make a deeper NCAA tournament run compared to last year's early exit? And in my opinion, I think they will. And Duke lands at number 7 in our rankings after another strong offseason of roster rebuilding from John Shire. The Blue Devils return key contributors like Isaiah Evans, Caleb Foster, and Patrick Ngangba from last year's 35-4 Final Four squad, giving them proven production to pair with the nation's top-ranked recruiting class. And of course, the headliner is Cameron Boozer, who is one of the most decorated high school players in recent memory and a likely double-double machine from day one with the Blue Devils. He'll be joined by his twin brother Caden Boozer, international wing Dame Sarr, and top 25 recruit Sebastian Wilkins, who reclassified from the 2026 class. But Boozer's presence in the front court should immediately anchor both the offense and the glass, while Evans is primed for a breakout season as a high-volume scorer on the wing. And while Duke loses stars like Cooper Flagg, Kon Knipple, Kaman Malawach, and others to the NBA, the blend of elite freshmen and returning talent gives them the tools to contend for another ACC title title and the ability and chance to make it back to the Final Four. Coming in at the number 6 spot, we have the Louisville Cardinals after Pat Kelsey put together one of the best off seasons in the country. The Cardinals returned key frontcourt pieces like Javon Hadley and Kason Pryor from last year's 27-8 NCAA tournament squad, and then went ahead and added a loaded mix of transfers and freshmen to help elevate the roster. The backcourt is looking especially dangerous with 5-star freshman Mikal Brown Jr., who is a dynamic shot maker and playmaker and showcased his talents with Team USA in the FIBA Under-19 Men's World Cup this summer. He also joins impact transfers Ryan Conwell from Xavier, Isaac McNeely from Virginia, and maybe the biggest one in Adrian Woolley from Kennesaw State, who will all be major parts of the team's success next season. And in the front court, German big Sanando Fru will help bring size and athleticism to the Cardinals roster. But one of the biggest reasons Louisville moved up in the rankings is the return of 7-foot big man Ali Khalifa, who is now cleared to play next season after winning his appeal of his eligibility issues. And with the balanced mix of proven veterans, a high upside freshman in Mikal Brown Jr., and the return of Ali Khalifa, Kelsey's squad has the firepower to challenge Duke for ACC supremacy, and it feels like the program's first March Madness win under Kelsey is well within reach. Kentucky claims the number 5 spot in these rankings after reloading with one of the deepest perimeter groups in the country. The Wildcats' return leading scorer Otega Owe is now joined by a lot of high-impact transfers like Jalan Lowe from Pitt, Cam Williams from Tulane, and Denzel Aberdeen from Florida, plus 5-star freshman Jasper Johnson. Mark Pope also focused on bolstering the frontcourt defensively, landing Alabama transfer Mohamed Diabate and Arizona State transfer Jaden Quaitnance, who was a top prospect last year and whose ACL recovery will be a major storyline going into the season. But if Quaitnance returns to a full strength, his rim protection and interior presence could be game-changing for the Wildcats. But if he does miss a few games, they still have Brandon Garrison, who will be returning and will be called upon to take the next step in his development. Jalan Lowe was a third-team All-ACC selection last season and should thrive in Pope's spacing-heavy offense, which is designed to create cleaner looks for their guards. And Kentucky returns only 2 of its top 7 scorers from last year's Sweet 16 team, but with the elite depth, improved defense, all of the big transfers and explosive scoring potential that this team has, this revamped roster is one of my favorites and definitely has the talent to challenge for an SEC title and make a deep NCAA tournament run. UConn jumps up to number 4 in our rankings after reloading for another championship push. The biggest offseason win was definitely Alex Karaban's decision to return to Storrs and pairing him with star guard Solo Ball to form one of the most dangerous offensive duos in the nation. Georgia transfer Silas DeMary Jr. fills a critical need at point guard, bringing size, playmaking, and scoring that's reminiscent to former Husky star Tristan Newton. And if Terrace Reed Jr. can stay healthy and be productive inside, UConn's front court will be formidable. Freshman Braylon Mullins, who is one of 2 McDonald's All-Americans in Dan Hurley's top 5 recruiting class, is expected to make an immediate impact alongside fellow newcomer Eric Ryby. The Huskies returned 4 of their top 7 scorers as well from last year's squad, giving them valuable continuity, while newcomers like Dayton transfer Malachi Smith will help add depth to that as well. And with championship experience, high-end talent, and an upgraded backcourt for the Huskies, UConn is built to challenge for a 3rd title in 4 years and will look to reestablish itself as the nation's most dangerous team in the tournament. Houston moves back 1 spot and is number 3 in our updated rankings, but they are still one of the most dangerous teams next season in my opinion, and especially after a huge win after the NBA draft withdrawal deadline, which led to the return of senior point guard Milos Uzan. His leadership, paired with sharpshooter Emmanuel Sharp and defensive anchor Joseph Tugler, gives the Cougars a battle-tested core from last year's national runner-up squad. And while losing LJ Cryer and Jawan Roberts will definitely sting, Kelvin Sampson has reloaded with one of the nation's best recruiting classes, headlined by 5-star forward Chris Sinak Jr. and scoring guard Isaiah Harwell. Harwell's 3-level shot making will be key in replacing Cryer's perimeter production, while Senak's size and athleticism will help bolster the front court next to Joseph Tugler, and the addition of Sam Houston transfer Khalife Sacco will help add some more interior depth as well. But as always, expect Houston's trademark elite defense and relentless rebounding to keep them in every game. And with proven veterans, some of these high upside freshmen, and Sampson's consistent winning formula in Houston, the Cougars are definitely built to contend for another Final Four run and perhaps finish what they started last season. Florida jumps up to number 2 in our rankings after a massive offseason boost from the NBA draft withdrawals and their key transfer additions. The reigning national champions retained star forward Alex Condon, who pulled out of the NBA draft, and added former Arkansas guard Boogie Flan, who is a dynamic scorer and playmaker that averaged 15 points and nearly 6 assists last season before going down to injury. And joining them is Princeton transfer Xavier Lee, which will give the Gators one of the most talented backcourts in the country. Returning bigs Thomas Houck, Ruben Chinulu, and Micah Hanlogden ensure Florida's front court remains dominant like last season, and Houck is primed for a breakout year in my opinion. And while replacing All-American and Final Four MVP Walter Clayton Jr. and defensive ace Elijah Martin won't be easy for the Gators, Todd Golden's squad brings back 5 of its top 10 scorers from last year's title team, and the elite depth, veteran size, and the high-level guard play that they brought in, the Gators have the pieces to make a legitimate run at back-to-back national championships. And staying at the number 1 spot in our rankings, we have the Purdue Boilermakers, thanks to one of the most loaded rosters in the country that's headlined by 2 potential All-Americans. Braden Smith is arguably the best guard in the country in college basketball and returns after a breakout season and will once again run the show for Matt Painter. And on the inside, they have Trey Kaufman-Wren, who remains a dominant force and is now joined by South Dakota State transfer Oscar Clough, who averaged 17.5 points and 12 rebounds per game last year. Clough's low post scoring and rebounding should perfectly complement Kaufman-Wren's game, and the Boilermakers also bring back 5 of their top 6 scorers from last season's Sweet 16 team, including sharpshooter Fletcher Lawyer, 7-footer Daniel Jacobson, and CJ Cox, giving them elite continuity. But one of the most underrated pieces for this team, in my opinion, is Israeli guard Omer Mayer, who has balled out this summer and looks like one of the best newcomers to college basketball. And Jacobson's rim protection could address last year's defensive concerns as well. And with Matt Painter adding size, skill, and experience to an already strong core that the Boilermakers has, Purdue looks like they could dominate the Big Ten, but also have a legitimate push for the Final Four in 2026. And with that, let me know in the comments what you think of our updated top 25 college basketball preseason rankings, and who do you think should be higher or lower on the list. Also, if you enjoyed the video, please make sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you in the next one.